Welcome to the Raising Values podcast, where the traditional family talks. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can support the Raising Values podcast through Patreon. Phil and Gillian are behind the mic, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Raising Values.
Good morning.
My wife made me put a pad underneath this microphone, so hopefully y'all don't hear when we tap on the table anymore.
That's because I spoke to Stuart and we kind of brainstormed some ideas about tapping on the table.
Well, we will see who was right, me or Stuart.
You'll also see, if you're watching live with us this morning or catching the recap, that Phil's arms are on the table and mine are not. Anyway, good morning.
This is the joy of podcasting with your spouse. So much easier with Andrew because whenever he upsets me, I can just stop texting him for a week.
Oh, you don't do that. You two talk like boyfriend and boyfriend.
Well, more like stepbrothers, but you know.
Well, okay, we'll do stepbrothers. That sounds better. But still, y'all are like joined at the cell phone. You can't be joined at the hip because he's in Michigan. But
anyway.
Best friends.
So today I thought we'd have a little talk about reinventing ourselves, self-improvement, and self-sabotage. Because you've kind of provoked in this household recently, within the last month or so, really since summer began, you've kind of provoked the three of us to start looking more critically at our health, at our physical well-being, our emotional well-being. We'd already been kind of watching what we were eating as far as prioritizing one thing over another, but you've taken that a step further now, and you have us looking very critically at what's in the food we're actually eating, and what can we do differently so that we're eating cleaner, less preservatives, less sugar, less...
Yeah, so I guess you could safely say that I am sort of, maybe kind of going through a little bit of a midlife crisis, sort of. I'm not going to go out and buy a convertible and whatever. But
I was just about to say divorce your husband and buy a convertible.
Oh, no. We're not that kind of midlife crisis. I guess, 40's coming up. And if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you saw my post that manifesting is not just dreaming, it's doing. It's not, yes, you have to dream you want to do it, but you also have to do it. So I guess let's go back a little bit. A few years ago, you and I, and even Piper, well, not really Piper, because she was really too young to do the keto. We were really heavy into keto. We did it for quite a few months. I lost, 35 pounds? You lost a whole lot and quickly, which was just bleh.
Sorry. Men
and your incredible weight loss, whatever. But we got COVID and it all just kind of fell apart from there. And so since then, we really haven't been super great about our food choices and definitely exercise and things like that. And so 40 is knocking on the door for me. Now, you've already passed 40. I'm just going to remind you, you've already passed 40. That's okay.
No midlife crisis for me.
I like you.
I'm the same grumpy old fart that I was at 39.
You really didn't change after 40. Well, and there was no lead up to your 40th either, like there is for me. But
no, but then again, you've always jokingly told me that I am an old man because I have that personality.
You're just an old spirit. You're an old soul. You're smart. You're very calm. You're very, I don't know. You're just an old soul. That's all there is to it. You didn't like to party when we were younger. You didn't like to, I wanted to go and hit the streets of New Orleans every weekend, and you were begrudgingly doing that with me because you're a homebody. You'd rather do that. Now I am, but yeah, you're just an old soul. And I guess I'm not. I don't know. Anyway, back to the conversation at hand. So I came home, actually, it wasn't even at the end of the school year. In February, I went to the doctor because I've been dealing with a lot of health issues and had some major blood work done. Saw that levels of all kinds of things, hormones, blood, iron, everything was just so far out of whack, like crazy out of whack. And the one thing that was out of whack that was scary was my iron and my ferritin, I think it was. Anyway, so it was a scary moment of having to go see a hematologist slash oncologist. Whew, that was a scary moment, pulling into that clinic and going to see a oncologist. And why is my blood so crazy right now? And does it mean that there's just an infection? Does it mean I'm fighting cancer? What's going on? So anyway, more and more, I swear I've had more blood drawn in the last 4 months.
I think they have a vampire chained up in the back room they're trying to keep fed.
They're like, oh, she's here. Yay, let's get some blood from her. The first time I went in, I remember the phlebotomist was like, I'm going to have to pull like 6 or 7 different, I think it was 7 different vials of blood on you. And which was good because it was such a complete and thorough exam, and we were able to see exactly where I was in like all my female hormones, and then just where, 40, everything changes when you start to get older, obviously. So anyway, good report from the oncologist, nothing to be scared of. In fact, he did a blood test that day too, called me almost immediately as soon as I got in the car and said, look, everything's coming back in normal range for you. Nothing to be worried about. You're not even, what's the word? Anemic. You're not even anemic. And so that was really, really good news. I didn't have to go back to see him again. So yay. But I think the women who listen to this podcast will probably understand that it's just really hard once you get into your 30s and 40s to lose weight and get healthy, and you're battling. So like, I'm perimenopausal. So my sister has already gone through, my twin sister has already gone through menopause. And my mom was really, really young when she went through menopause, probably like 35. So it's not, when I went to my doctor and said these are the things that are happening, I think I'm going into menopause. I'm at least perimenopausal. She's like, but how old are you? You're 39. I was 39. And she's like, you're way too young for that. And then I said, well, wait a second. Let me tell you about my twin sister and my mom. And she goes, oh, well, there it is. So yeah, this could be happening. So anyway, so I'm fighting against that. I'm fighting against getting healthy, against my own body, because my body, I guess, just wants to be a lazy, fat old woman who just wants to sit in her rocking chair all day. And oh, the comment from Garden Girl 84, I'm 39 and I feel all of this. Honey, if you need to talk, I will talk about my experience the last 4 months. So one of the things that Phil and I decided to do after COVID, really after Phil had to put in his exemption for the vaccine with work, we really started to look at the medications we were putting into our body. And we couldn't Phil really couldn't put in his exemption and say the religious part of why he did not want to get the vaccine without having to take a reflective look on everything else all the other medication we put in our body. We've even gone so far as to, Piper's coming up for her vaccinations at 12. We're really trying to figure out, do we really need to go through with those vaccinations? And then the ones that have been tested for decades and decades, and now, there's so much evidence, and we know what's going to happen and things like that. We're just questioning a lot of what we put into our body. And so doing that, I went to my doctor and said, I would really like to combat everything I'm dealing with naturally, as much as I can naturally, because I know that there's ways. I've always been, and this has always been Phil's, one of Phil's reasons for calling me, this hippy dippy woman.
You are a bit of a crunchy hippie.
I have always grown up, and if you listen to last week's episode, you'll understand, every Saturday or Sunday after church or whatever, I would get into the garden with my dad. He grew herbs, and he would tell me the medicinal values of those herbs. And so I've always grown up, believing that God gave us everything on this earth to take care of ourselves. And so there are just centuries old belief systems, or I don't know what you want to say, like even just like books and things about, like, people just know what different plants do for our bodies. And I mean, there's physical evidence, there's research that's been done on a lot of these things. Of course, it's never going to be FDA approved because, big pharma, all that stuff. But anyway, that's something that I got into when we started prepping, was Phil's going to take care of the food and the drills and ammo and things like that. And I'm really going to dive into the medicinal value of plants. If everything hits the fan and we can't get to a pharmacist, maybe you don't have a doctor in your community, you definitely won't be able to get your prescriptions and things like that. The only thing we'll have to rely on are plants outside, things that you can forage.
Well, and I do think it's worth pointing out, though, that like most of our earliest medicines were directly derived from plants. Things like penicillin, like aspirin. Like I think what I think is really important to point out in a moment like this, because there's going to be that one person in the audience that says, "Well, that's nonsense. We have modern medicine and medical science." And I just point out, I'm like, but you do understand that some of the things you still get on from the pharmacist, they're literally directly derived, or in their infancy, when they were first created, they were directly derived from plants, from nature, from mold. I mean, that's what penicillin is.
Well, you have to think, I think people nowadays, and maybe even at the time that I'm thinking of, but we're so consumed with ourselves that we don't even think outside of the box, or we don't even think about the past, and people have been on this earth for millions of years now, and surely they all went through the same sort of things that we did. So how did they combat that? They had to go up against headaches and toothaches and infection and things like that. And so trial and error, thanks to these men and women who decided to put plants on their bodies, or ingest plants, or smoke plants, or whatever, to make themselves help themselves heal. So it's really great that we have that information now. So that's something that I've really kind of gotten myself into. So anyway, back to my doctor. I went to the doctor and I said, look, we went over all of the blood tests and all of the results, and she basically said, you're a mess and we've got to get you fixed. And so I went on some supplements that they create in-house. And it was one of the reasons why I went to this doctor, because they have a natural approach. But if the natural approach doesn't work, we can always go to pharma. We can always, go to medication if we need to. So I've been on this medicine, and one of them, it just like, it was like a duh moment, like, hello, like I didn't even know this actually happened, but I would have to eat so much broccoli and cauliflower to actually help my body. That's why I'm taking it as a supplement. But there is not an enzyme, but there's something in broccoli, in that family of plants, that actually helps to regulate female hormones. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. I wasn't like going to be like, oh yeah, right, because I've been, on this whole path of nature is, going to help us kind of thing. So I started taking all this medicine, and I say all this medicine. It really wasn't. It was two supplements to help with my female hormones, and then it's B12 and vitamin D, which, by the way, every single person in America, at least, is deficient in vitamin D and B12. Vitamin D is it is an immune booster. I don't know why that was so hard for me to get out. It's an immune booster. It is directly linked to people who did get COVID, the flu, colds, sinus infections. It's if you did a blood test on everyone who gets sick with those sorts of ailments and even things that are worse, the odds are that they are very deficient or even just a little bit deficient in vitamin D. And you can get vitamin D outside. You have to get indirect sunlight to your eyes to absorb the vitamin D. You can do it through your skin as well, but it's best to go through your eyes in the mornings and in the afternoon. So, like, don't go outside and look at the sun, because that's obviously not a good idea.
That's a no-go.
Indirect sunlight to your eyes. Well, you have to do that for so long to actually get that vitamin D. And our diets don't help us at all in this country. We have such horrible food in this country, and that was one of the things that Phil and I started to look at recently. So anyway, this has turned out to be a really long story. So anyway, so I started taking these supplements. I'm on them for 4 months. Again, another blood draw. Let's see where we're at with these supplements. Y'all, I was so taken aback when I got the results. And don't hate on Waffle House. Kyle, what are you talking about? I'm not hating on Waffle House. Waffle House is the only thing that's going to stay open when we have hurricanes. Anyway, back to, that was like the weirdest.
I think he was talking about when you said, like, how the food we eat is so horrible.
Oh, yes.
But he jokingly says that. But given Waffle House's proclivity for, like, cooking everything in bacon grease, I'm pretty sure Waffle House is actually healthier than most of y'all think it is.
True. So my levels came back, I wouldn't say perfect, but they are all within a healthy, normal range now. So I'm not really, the only thing she did ask me to do is to double up on my vitamin D. But I was still I was just a little bit under where I needed to be for my vitamin D. So instead of 40,000 units every week, I'm now going to be at 80. So that's not a big deal. And the B12 is that's just such an energy boost, which is what really women going through perimenopause and menopause need, because your energy is just drained. Like, I was coming home, I was so tired at work, and by 9 o'clock I was ready to lay my head on my desk and go to sleep. And it was just I had such a really hard time teaching throughout the day because I was just so damn tired.
And then you were coming home in the afternoons taking a nap
and
in the recliner.
Yeah, then I would come home, no matter what I did, I sat down in that recliner and I was asleep. Like, I was probably 30, 45, sometimes an hour and a half. And then I would get up, eat dinner, make dinner, eat dinner, and then I'd go back to bed. Like, I was just so tired. Well, it really all boils down to my B12 and my vitamin D, levels. So that's been a really big help for me. So definitely go get B12 and vitamin D. Talk to your doctor. The sublingual actually is better because it gets into your bloodstream a lot faster. So if you can find something like that. Anyway, so February is when I really started to go down this path of this isn't working. We've got to do something. And at that time, a lot of the teachers in my school and a lot of my friends were, and still are, doing it didn't come out as a weight loss shot. It's actually a shot that is for people with diabetes. And it's helped women, people in general, to lose weight. And so now you can go down to a lot of these health spas and get a vial or whatever, I don't even know how it comes in, of there's a couple of different brands of this new weight loss shot, and you take it once a week, and it helps you to lose weight. And basically what it does is it helps your blood sugar levels to self-regulate, and it suppresses your appetite. And so now you have all these women who have lost all this weight so quickly. I'm dropping 50, 60 pounds. Of course, I'm going, well, I kind of want to get on it, and I kind of want to do this. In fact, my doctor actually asked me if I wanted it last week when I went in, and I said no, because it's such a new medication. Same thing with COVID. The COVID vaccine. It's such a new medication. We don't know what it's going to do. I have had friends that have kidney issues after using it, and so I'm just a little hesitant to do that. The other part of me that I'm struggling with is everyone knows about my ankle and the injury that I've had. Well, and if you don't, then my foot was basically ripped off. My right foot was basically ripped off in a car accident when I was 18. It was reattached. And obviously, I have a lot of pain and discomfort. I have very limited range of mobility. There's very few things that I can do that don't hurt when I do them. And walking is even one of them. And so I've always leaned on that excuse of, well, I can't exercise because it's going to hurt. And I really just don't want to go walking today because it's going to hurt later and all that stuff. But so that's when we started to really look into the keto diet. It was something that we could do just at home, and it was something that we could just monitor what we put into our mouth. And so that worked. We lost a lot of weight, got COVID, and kind of regressed and didn't go back onto it.
Well, but to be fair, like the time period you're talking about when all three of us caught the Delta strain of COVID, like Piper had it first, you caught it from her, and then I caught it from the two of y'all. So there was like, what, about 2.5, maybe as long as 3 weeks?
Oh, no, there was about a month, because I have it in my timeline. It's crazy on Facebook. We went to the farmer's market that day, and then that next day we went up to the farmer's market on a Saturday, and then on Sunday is when I came down with it really, really hard, and then I had to go to the hospital. But it was about a month before the three of us left the house again.
Yeah, it was like it just hopscotched through the household.
Luckily, it was during the summer, so Piper didn't miss any school, but it didn't hit her very hard. It hit me the hardest.
Piper had a cold. I mean,
it was like a cold for her.
I think her fever might have touched 99 once or twice.
Yeah.
And this is also why, like, during COVID, whenever people would express me, they were terrified of their children about her age catching it. I was like, I can't speak for all children, and I won't. I will just offer you my daughter's experience. She basically had a runny nose and a mild fever, and she was like 3 days, and she was fine.
Yeah.
Like, you got flattened by it. And
I was sick. Like, it was a really crazy experience for me because I already suffer from anxiety and panic, and that's just been something I think I kind of suppressed it during my childhood, but it really came out during postpartum and all that stuff. So I go to the hospital. I actually was kind of shocked that I had COVID. And it was almost like the minute they told me I had COVID, their attitude towards me changed. And because the first question was, did you get the vaccine? And
which, by the way, at this time had like just recently come out.
It was very, very, very new. And they asked if I had gotten the vaccine, and I said no. And it was almost like their attitude towards me changed. I was left in the room for hours by myself. Of course, Phil and Piper couldn't be there. I wanted Phil there so badly. But there was a moment where my panic got so bad that I almost ripped the IVs out of my arm and walked out of the hospital because I just couldn't be there. I was in a room by myself. It was a little, intake room at the hospital. I wasn't seeing anybody. The doctor came in, talked about how he was going on a vacation, and it was just like la-di-da kind of thing. And here I am with 104 fever and vomiting. I am passing out in the bathroom. It was just kind of like, I don't know. Anyway, so that's a totally different story for another episode. But
We'll save that for the why I no longer trust the entire medical industry.
I wouldn't say entire.
Okay, let me recant that slightly. I have friends and family that work in the medical field to some degree, some of which are listeners to the show. But I will say that as if I had to regard the medical industrial complex as like a nameless, faceless entity, I no longer trust that entity. I trust individuals within it that I personally know are trying to do the right thing. But like what I've seen, not just during COVID, but like even extending it further out to a more broad definition of what healthcare is considered to be in this country now, I just don't trust it. It's like the whole conversation you were having earlier about take the shot, or the other alternative is to try to get your levels straightened out in your blood and then make lifestyle changes. Like I have this thought process where I don't think some of this skips almost towards like our philosophy as Christians, but like I don't think we are intended to try to cover up for poor eating habits and poor lifestyle choices with medication. I feel like medicine has its place. I feel like it has saved countless thousands of people. I have no like objection to medicine on principle, but I do have an objection to medicine that is used to excuse or cover up for poor lifestyle decisions. So when somebody comes to me and says, well, take this pill, you lose weight, I'm like, but if I quit eating like crap and walk around more, I'll lose weight too. So like,
right.
It's the harder solution, but I think it's the one we're meant to embrace. And if you look at more primitive people or people 100 years ago, we didn't have these instances of heart disease. We didn't have all these instances of arterial blockage. We didn't have any of those things because we ate a low carb diet that was high in protein and high in fat.
But we were also eating real food, whole food.
And we also weren't as susceptible to all these viruses and bacteria because we were spending more time outside, had higher levels of vitamin D. I personally just think I think we human beings have created the problem we're facing, which is horrible health. I mean, yeah, our lifespans are longer, but we on the averages are still reaching about 60 to 70 years old, and then the last 20 years of our life are spent basically on life support between medical care facilities and pharma. And I have to question if that is better than just passing away at 70.
Right.
Me personally. I'm not advocating that for anybody else, just saying I don't see...
I mean, if the time comes that you need to be put on prescription medication, I would hope that you would do it.
If there's no way to avoid it, I'm not opposed to it.
Right.
But if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, if you would quit A, it would preclude you from having to take this medication," then quitting A is what I should be doing.
Which is the hardest thing for, I think, humans in general just to do, is because we get into our own strides, and we get into what makes us comfortable and things like that, and so change is hard.
Well, and human beings are lazy.
Well, true, yeah, we are. We're definitely lazy.
I mean, look, I'm very, and I don't lodge this against everyone else without including myself in that. Human beings are lazy. I mean, if I have the choice between sitting inside, thank God, in the air conditioning, and drinking coffee on a Sunday morning versus going outside and chopping wood with an axe, guess what? This is a lot more fun. But I don't think laziness is a free lunch. I think that if we are lazy, if we don't take it upon ourselves to make hard decisions and to make intentional changes in our lives, we're gonna suffer from that. And right. I think that's where the pill, the shot, the whatever becomes very appealing, because it tells a person, well, you can have all the results but none of the work. But I don't believe that. I believe that you might get some of the results, but there might be something else sneaking along with that pill that you're not expecting.
That's like with the shot that all these women are taking now. Some of them get really sick on it, and then some of them there's no side effects except that they lose weight, they feel better, whatever.
That's the way medication works.
Well, and then so I usually don't take anything over like a Tylenol or an ibuprofen because I'm so sensitive to medication. And there was actually, so I get migraines really bad, which, by the way, my little garden girl 84 friend, there's this medication, these supplements that I'm on now have actually not completely stopped my hormonal migraines, but they've definitely gone down. I would love to, if you want to message me later, we can totally talk about all the stuff that I'm doing, and maybe it can help you too. I forgot what I was going to say now. What was I talking about?
Migraines, not taking more than Tylenol.
Oh, yeah. So this medication, these shots that these women are taking, I'm so afraid that, I'm not only am I going to feel the side effects from it, but it's going to hit me really hard. And so I still in the back of my mind, I'm going, the easy pill, that would be great. Just give me the shots. If you could prescribe it, maybe my insurance will cover it. If your insurance doesn't cover it, y'all, it's like $1,000 per month for these shots, which is just what? Like crazy.
I mean, it's basically like insulin.
It's crazy. So Phil kind of got off on his own thing, and I was still telling my story, and I know he's already gone. That's okay. You've already moved the banner, and that's okay. So keto was really great for us. We lost a lot of weight. It did have some negative side effects for me, and I have a stomach intestinal condition, and so I feel like I have all these things that are wrong with me. But anyway, keto was not good for that for me, and there was a month where I had a really bad flare up, and it was because of the keto, and so I don't really want to go back on that, even though I know that the processed sugar and the carbs and all that stuff does cause a lot of inflammation. So it's just something that I'm not completely taking out of my diet now, and I'm just making sure that I'm eating below a certain amount. So between 70 and 100 grams of carbs a day is what I'm doing, which is helping. So anyway, so here we are, and it is the hottest time of the year. This is the time when I like to say that you don't know where your body ends and atmosphere begins in South Louisiana and in the South in general.
On the Gulf Coast, it is hot girl summer for at least 5 months.
And he's not talking about like we look so sexy in our bikinis. Hot girl summer, we're sweating from every piece of our body is sweating. But even though it is hella hot outside, we have done such a good job since the end of May. We've been walking 2 miles a day. We're riding our bikes. If I'm on my bike, I'm trying to get more than 3 miles a day, but definitely walking 2 miles a day. And I've noticed a change. I've also noticed, which is really crazy, and I don't know if this is my brain doing this or if it's because of this walking and exercising and just being committed to closing my rings, that my appetite has gone down. Like yesterday I kept going to the fridge, and I was just like, I need to eat. I know I need to eat, but I'm not hungry.
I don't think that's just in your head, though, because Piper and I have had the same experience.
Yeah, we talked about that last night.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much hit her yet because she hasn't been walking with us for very long. But like, I've had that experience with having changed my eating habits and with you encouraging us to go walking, where I am absolutely eating less than I used to, but I'm full, because one of the benefits of working from home, for those of you that have that experience, it's awesome. But like, I can literally take my 15-minute morning break, come to the kitchen, make me 3 fried eggs.
Yeah, I got him on fried eggs.
Oh yeah. Well, I was always sidebar. I was always a scrambled egg person. She got me started on this whole frying an egg, where you just crack it into the pan, wait till it starts to congeal, flip it over itself into like a little eggy hot pocket, and then cook it till the yolk is well done. I like my yolks well done.
I like mine runny.
Yeah, Gillian likes hers runny. But the point is, like that, 3 fried eggs on a piece of buttered toast, and I found that I'm skipping lunch sometimes, which,
I'm skipping a lot of, like, dinner and lunch. Like, if I eat a really, really protein-heavy breakfast, which, I don't drink coffee in the morning. I haven't for a long time. I drink a
I forgive you for that.
I drink a mushroom coffee, which is really heavy in protein, and we also drink whole milk. We use Fairlife because Fairlife only has 6 grams of sugar per cup.
That is a key.
So we're not drinking and I know it's a little bit more expensive, and you don't get as much of it because it's only a half gallon.
It's a half gallon.
It's a half gallon. But it is whole milk, and it's less sugar than just a generic.
And
brand.
the expiration date on it is always longer. That
Yeah.
was one of the things that was one of the reasons why we started stocking more and more milk, was because we noticed, and when we compare Fairlife to Horizon or any of the cheaper store brands, if they would only last a week and a half, 2 weeks before they hit their expiration date, the Fairlife was a month. So that was the eye opener for us of, okay, so now we can have 3 and 4 half gallons lined up on the shelf. And as much as we go through milk between our afternoon espresso lattes that you love and just drinking.
Which isn't every day.
No, it's not every day. I mean, I drink coffee every day, but I guess my point.
Yeah, you're a coffee. I'm sorry, you have a point.
But I guess the thing of it is I truly believe that the shifts we made in our diet paired with the walking you've had us doing are absolutely changing things for the better, because you were talking earlier about your migraines. That I've struggled with my blood sugar to some degree basically since my early 30s. Mm-hmm. I've known I was hypoglycemic. It's extraordinarily obvious. I don't even need a freaking blood test to know, because all the symptoms are there. And I was at a point where I had to eat, especially when I was working on site, I had to eat something for breakfast. Didn't have to be much, but it had to be something. And then I had to have enough for lunch, because if I didn't, by the time I got home, I was already full-blown migraine because my blood sugar had tanked. And there have been moments where my blood sugar has gotten so far out of whack, it's literally caused me to pass out. I mean, it's not a common thing, but it has gotten very, very bad at times. It's why to this day I carry peanut butter crackers in the truck with me at all times, because if my blood sugar starts to drop, it's very, very bad very quickly. Mm-hmm. But since we've made these dietary changes, and I think especially since we got more exercise, I haven't had that experience. When I get hungry, I'm hungry. I'm not migraine, shaky, color drains out of my face, nauseated. That's all gone. I'm oh, I need to go eat something. Yeah. So to me, it's not about kind of what you were saying earlier about how we don't want to go full blast keto. We really don't want to do Weight Watchers again or anything where we have to count.
I just don't want to count and have to track every single thing.
But I think what we've done is we've started prioritizing. If I have a choice between carbs and sugar or protein and animal fat, I'm going to choose the protein and animal fat because I know that's what I need. And if I just desperately need a piece of bread to make a sandwich, I'm just going to suck it up and have the piece of bread. But it's the other night, I was hungry. It was dinner time. I wasn't super hungry. I just fried up 3 eggs. And that was it. 3 eggs. What did I have on the side of that? Maybe it may have been a piece of buttered toast. But anyway, I find that the more we prioritize animal milk fat, the more we prioritize protein, the less we prioritize carbs and sugar, the better all three of us feel.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost the brain fog lifts and everything else. You feel a little bit more clear, you have more energy. But getting back to the 2-mile walks every day. That's been
impressive for me to watch with you, because I know the trouble you have with your ankle. We've been together 18 years. I've literally been there for maybe not the worst of it, but I've been there for a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And I've been really impressed that it seems like the more you do this, the less it hurts.
Yeah, so, not to dive too deep into the injury, but, I don't have connective tissue in my ankle anymore. And so when I walk, it's bone on bone. And the doctors, I've seen quite a few doctors, and all of them look at me and oh, you have the ankle of a 90-year-old woman. What I've been told by quite a few doctors is my end result eventually, once I am just done with the pain, is going to have my foot probably mid-calf amputated, which on one hand, I wish they would have done that at the wreck. I wish they would have just amputated my leg because it was just so mangled.
I could have called you Peggy.
Somebody want a husband? I'm joking.
I
wish they would have just amputated it at the wreck, but then it's like not the other day, it's been about maybe a year and a half, I don't know, since I've seen my doctor. Well, it's been about a year, and he's like, he writes out the handicap thing, for your cars, and he's like, here, you're gonna need to get 4 of them, just keep them. This is it. This is the rest of your life. It was that kind of like moment where I was like, okay, like I'm officially handicapped. Like this is it. Like we all have placards in our window, and he said you can get the plate, but then if you go into a friend's car, you won't be able to change your plate, things like that. But anyway, so officially in the state of Louisiana, I am handicapped, which kind of hit me hard. Because for so long I was like, yeah, I'm walking on a foot that's been ripped off and reattached, and look at me. And now it's just kind of like, yeah, don't look at me. I hobble sometimes, and depending on the shoes that I wear, it really hurts. So starting this whole thing with walking was a little scary for me, because I was afraid that I was going to walk for a couple of days, and then I was going to peter out because the pain in my ankle was going to just be too much to deal with. But I kept at it. And so we've been walking now. So the 30th of June will be a full month of walking 2 miles a day, or riding my bike, or doing some sort of yoga or exercising, cardio, stuff like that. What I've noticed is once I pushed through the pain of about a week of like just hardcore, I have to walk. And this is without a brace. This is without the socks, the compression socks and things like that. My ankle is no longer swelling the way that it always has. So like my ankle is always big. It just swells. You can't see it in the video. It just swells. And it's like I have one cankle and a regular ankle. And I've always been a little self-conscious about that. But I figured, and Phil and I talked about it, maybe what we're doing, because when you walk, you're building muscle, you're burning fat, you're whatever. What I'm doing is I'm building up the muscles and the ligaments and the tendons that surround that ankle and support it, which I've been so afraid to use for so long. I had my wreck when I was 18. I'm 39, so it's been 21 years since I've had my wreck.
Well, and if you think about it, the last time you probably did a lot of regular walking was when you worked at Audubon, was Piper was a baby. Like,
yeah, I was also 50 pounds lighter too.
True, but I guess to your point about like not using those muscles, like I feel like every job you've had since then, you've been doing less walking.
Less and less, yes.
Yeah.
And my mom at one point was like, well, maybe you should stop working and get on Social Security or whatever. And I didn't want to do that. I mean, I was young when she recommended that. I was just coming out of Audubon, so I was walking this facility. I was probably walking 5 or 6 miles just to get upstairs and downstairs to do all sorts of things at work. And I was lighter. I didn't weigh as much, so I didn't. And things were just different. Like hormones were different. I was 20-something years old, and so things were just different. Now I'm just battling everything else. But anyway, so walking these 2 miles a day, not only do I look forward to the walks, and maybe that's because I'm on summer break and there's just not a lot going on, and that's just our time to really get out of the house no matter how hot it is. Yesterday we walked in the rain for a little bit, and then Mother Nature was like, we're going to send some lightning bolts and you're going to get your ass back in the house.
that first extra spicy crash of thunder was like, okay, everybody back in the house.
But okay, so we didn't finish our 2 miles. We did a mile. We didn't finish the 2. We came in, and I was just kind of defeated. Like, I went to bed a little upset. Now, I closed all my rings, so I met all my goals for the day. But it was hard work to get there. So I started to do some of the yoga that I did the day before. So this was a hardcore workout of yoga. And so I got in 10 minutes of it, and I was like, I can't do this today. Like, not only does every muscle in my body hurt from doing this yoga, but I just finished the mile walk. We had been out at the town doing errands all day. I was just done, and by 9 o'clock, I still hadn't closed my ring, and so I was doing some little cardio things. Finally, I closed my rings, but I just went to bed defeated, and I feel like if I had gotten that second mile in, it would have been fine. I even went and rode my bike for a mile. And I was just like, I got to do this. But I do have that drive now to go work out. I just want to work out, and it feels good. And I'm really glad that is starting to become something, because how you hear people say all the time, well, if you just start working out and you stick with it, then you're going to look forward to that workout. You're going to look forward to those endorphins and feeling good. And then you're going to start seeing a change in your body. And that has already started. Like, I'm already down a dress size, and which is so nice. Since February, I've lost 13 pounds, which is really great. And the more and more weight I lose, the more mass I get off of my ankle, the better my ankle is going to do. And so, and then what's really, really driving me, besides just wanting to feel better and, being an old lady and all that stuff, when 40 comes in January, I want to look and feel like a different woman. I don't want to go into 40 feeling like I'm already 70 years old, So I'm really determined to get control of my health, because if I don't do it now, it's just going to get harder and harder every year to get control of my health. And so that's what we've been doing. I think we're now past the point. What is the saying? If you do something for 15 days, it becomes a habit. I think that's what it is. It's maybe a little bit longer than that. But if you do something for so long, it becomes a habit. And this is something that I do plan on powering through July and August, which is going to be so hard come August, when temperatures are well above 95 degrees outside and the humidity is, you got to swim through it. But we've been walking not late at night, late in the afternoon, so 7 o'clock. So it's not too bad. And if you catch the weather right on the lakefront, there's a nice breeze and it's a little cooler and things like that. Plus you have a pretty landscape to look at. But anyway, so that's what we've been doing. That first banner took me 45 minutes to talk about. So,
well, and
sorry, not sorry.
and the second one I think is equally important, but probably quicker to get through, which is avoiding self-sabotage. Now,
which I'm really good at self-sabotage.
Well, I would argue everybody is really good at self-sabotage.
Well, I can't talk for everybody. I can talk about my intrusive thoughts and, talking negatively to myself, which I do. That I do battle body positivity was not a thing in my house growing up. I watched my mom speak badly about her body, and it really, I guess it stuck. It was just something I was always aware of. I can remember being probably 6 or 7 years old and being a little more pudgy than the other girls, and we went clothes shopping one time, and I really wanted to be in a 6X, which that size doesn't exist anymore for little girls. 6X doesn't exist, but I really wanted to be in a 6X, but I had to go into the juniors department instead. And so that's where I can remember that the body positivity for me really started to, go downhill, I guess. But so I have a really bad body image, and I don't see what you see, and I don't see what anybody else sees. I just see the imperfection and the flaws. So much so that there are days where I just don't even want to look at myself in the mirror, because it's just like, first, how did you let yourself get this far? So sometimes that's just really hard. But, and it's really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I've put myself in these positions so many times where I want to lose the weight, I want to get healthy, and I start off at a good sprint, or a good walk or whatever, and then I peter out, and then I've never reached my goal. And it just gets kind of defeating sometimes. Like I try not to think about that. I try not to think about the fact that I've never actually seen this through, and I'm almost 40 years old, and I can't hold myself accountable long enough to see these goals through. And so so as much as I feel good about walking and doing good about the food that we're eating and things like that, I'm still battling this whole, yeah, but you know what? If anything is going to repeat itself, it's going to be the fact that you're not going to meet this goal. You're going to try as hard as you can, and you're not going to meet this goal.
Which I have asked you in the past, if you want me to be that person that like puts my foot down on your toes every now and then and say, no, get your butt up and let's go walk because we're supposed to do it. I'm willing to. You just have to give me permission to be that person, because
You might have to every now and then.
I have witnesses, by the way. It's on
I
the
know, I
internet.
said that on the internet now.
But I guess, like, it sounds like the most hippy-dippy, crunchy, self-help nonsense in the world, but, like, I truly believe that, like, positive vibes yield positive outcome. And it's not that I truly believe that, like, you can just imagine your way into the results you want, but I do think you can imagine your way out of the result you want, where, like, you go into a situation saying, I'm going to fail at this. And if you say that before you even start, you're going to fail. Or if you go into like, you and I used to have this conversation all the time, and I have it with her too, about going into a confrontation and thinking to yourself, this is how this is going to play out. It's going to be this big deal. We're going to fight. We're going to argue. We're never going to talk again. And you come back and you say, oh yeah, it was a nothing. And I'm like, I told you it was going to be a nothing. You were the one that said it was going to be this situation. Mm-hmm. Like, I truly believe that when I tell people positive vibes, positive outcome, it's this silly little mantra I use where I'm like, I'm not going to go into this assuming it's going to blow up in my face. I'm prepared for that. I've thought of contingencies. I've tried to, like, pre-game myself with this so that I know how to react in certain situations, but I'm going into this with at least a neutral outlook so that I don't give myself permission to fail, which I think is like what that whole self-sabotage really comes down to. I think we give ourselves permission to fail, and I think we give ourselves permission to lose our temper and permission to do the things we don't want to do, because if we go into it saying, well, I was always going to fail, then you don't have to take ownership of the failure. You don't have to take ownership of your part. Like, you and I have talked about this, and if my father ever hears this, I'm sure he might remember this, but like when I was growing up, in my house, like, admitting you made a mistake or admitting you failed was big. And it was never, like, lorded over us. We were never, like, yelled at for failure. But we were expected to say, I failed. This is what I could have done to prevent the failure. And then after that, you move forward because you've admitted whatever part you had in what blew up in your face. You've talked about how you could prevent it from happening a second time. That means you've learned how to prevent it. And at that point, there's no further need to continue to lord over your children about, well, you stupid little SOB, you screwed up, because they're not going to repeat the mistake. But so there were times that, like, I had to admit, I didn't think the test was going to be that hard. And if I'd have studied harder, I'd have made a better grade. Or, like, there's that argument to be made that, like, when I got laid off not long after Piper was born, that was a big gut kick for me, because, like, I had jumped from one job to another to get into that position, to that level of responsibility, that level of earning to provide for my family. And could I have done anything different to prevent me getting laid off? I don't know. No, I don't think anybody else held me accountable for it, but it was one of those things I really had to, like, dig deep and think to myself, like, is there something I could have done to make this turn out differently? And even if the only answer is I could have taken a different job, because looking back on it, it was contract work. I was responsible for overseeing a contract. Contracts are 30 days to cancellation, which means every morning I was 30 days from losing my job. And I knew that going into it, but I thought to myself, it'll never happen to me. Positive vibes, positive outcome, until it did. And the day it did, now I had a problem to deal with. So I guess, like, that's a roundabout way of saying, like, I think we can I think we can cause ourselves to fail when we otherwise wouldn't have because we've told ourselves we're going to fail. And like you and I were watching a video on YouTube the other day, which I don't want to get too far into the specifics of it because it'll get me ranting and raving.
It was quite
It was
infuriating to watch.
Thoroughly ridiculous. But
And it happens in a lot of households.
oh, Jesus.
But anyway,
Christ.
go for it.
Yeah, we might have to save that one for when Piper's at her friend's house and we're by ourselves on a Sunday morning. But anyway, it was a person who was literally like sabotaging her own relationship with her child and her husband. Mm-hmm. And you and I both said the same thing watching that. Like, she is literally doing this to herself. Like, she's created a situation where these two people she's angry at had no opportunity to modify.
But she wasn't angry. And just to kind of give context, and I know that...
You don't think she was angry?
Well, wait a second.
Okay.
I know Phil doesn't really want to get into this,
Let it rip.
Okay, so there was this video of this woman, and she was explaining. She was just sitting there in front of her phone. This is on TikTok, and she's explaining how everything went down. Well, her and her husband were going to go have some
Alone time.
alone time. And I don't think she wanted to have alone time. So she self-sabotaged the whole togetherness with her husband by creating problems that weren't there. Husband went up to the bedroom, they were on the couch and watching TV. He goes up to the bedroom. She decides that this is the right moment, the right time to go do the laundry and get the laundry out of the dryer. And I guess it's down in the basement. And so now she's got her phone, her Bible, and the hot laundry out of the dryer. And she's going up the stairs, and the door, I guess, had closed. So she's screaming for her husband. She's screaming for the kid. Nobody comes, so she's got to put the basket down. Oh, God. Got to put the basket down and open the door for yourself. Okay, so now she's out, and she's stomping up the stairs, and she passes her son's room, and he's got his headphones on, and he just takes off one side and he's like, "What do you want?" or something like that. And so that pisses her off even more. So she goes to the bedroom, and she is
one detail. It pissed her off because she had said that he should have already bathed and been getting ready for bed, but he was playing his video games.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay, so she goes to her bedroom, and I don't know if this is where she normally folds her clothes, but she was saying how she was sweating, and she's making it such a scene, and she actually admits to making such a big commotion about this, so that and she's yelling at her son down the hall, and she's talking harshly to her husband, and she's sweating, and she's folding these clothes and throwing everything around and whatever. And I guess it got to the point where her husband was just like, "Screw it, I'm not playing this game." And the son was even like, "I'm not playing your game anymore, Mom." And it was just kind of like, maybe just be honest with your husband and just say, "I'm not really in the mood tonight," or maybe we can cuddle, or maybe we can do something different, or blah, 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 blah. There's a ton of different things and ways that she could have handled it differently, but she decided the best way to handle this was to throw a temper tantrum as a woman, a grown woman, to get out of a situation she didn't want to be in, instead of just being calm about it. And maybe even, leave the laundry in the dryer.
Wait, no.
You can't do that.
You can't do that. If you leave the laundry in the dryer, it starts the rapture.
Well, you know what? You can turn it on again in the morning and get the wrinkles out, and then you can fold it.
This is heresy.
Well, what we were...
Anarchy.
This isn't even really part of this whole episode, but what we were most shocked at is, when...
I was shocked she was still married.
True. When that time comes, it's just kind of like, laundry be damned. That's it. Like,
so if
I'm not grabbing my phone, the Bible, laundry. I'm not grabbing anything but myself. And that's how. Oh, that was me. Sorry, Stuart. That was my hand.
See, I've been good this time.
That one knock was me. Anyway, it was self-sabotage, and you can do it during sexy time with your spouse, or you can do it walking and trying to get healthy. Self-sabotage is just, it's so easy for me. I don't know if it's that easy for you, but it can be easy for me. But I don't know. I always have internal battles and thoughts, and I'm always talking to myself. And if you ever meet me and I'm talking to myself, yes, I'm going to answer myself. I might even laugh at my own jokes in my head. Like, there's just a constant conversation happening in my brain. So
the funny part is when she starts having a conversation out loud and then she stops. But she's still nodding her head like she's talking. And I'm like, she is literally finishing that conversation in her head.
I do it all the time. And poor Phil, he has no idea what's going on. But
Oh, no.
I've had a complete conversation. Just some of it was verbalized and some of it was not.
After 18 years, I know exactly what's going on. I just don't know what's being said.
Well,
but I can sit there and watch you, and I'll be like, do you want to let me in on what you just said head internally, or is that private? Which I say only half jokingly, because, we've established I'm not a mind reader. If you want me to know something, you have to speak.
Anyway, self-sabotage is a big thing. I'm working on not self-sabotaging myself. In my head, I swear, every morning it's almost become obsessive. I see the dress that I want to wear to my 40th birthday, and I see an image of myself, like a changed body and hair, makeup, all the things that I want to look like on my 40th birthday. And literally, it's like the boards that people put up, I forgot what they're called, but like a vision board in my head of what I want to look like and feel like in 7 months when my birthday rolls around. I certainly don't want to feel or look like what I'm feeling or looking like right now. And I think I'm getting there. I'm getting stronger. One of the comments was to keep with the Strava app. So the PBN group has been competing with ourselves to reach 500 miles for the month of June. I think it was June 1st through July 4th. We're almost there. We're getting there. We need some work. Like, everyone just, kind of pitch in a little bit, which everybody's doing a great job. I think we're over 300 miles now. And so we have just a few more days to go before we meet our goal. And that has become very helpful because I am such a competitive person, which is not good because when we play board games at the house, it does get people's feelings get hurt in this house.
A little heated.
Because they're also very competitive, especially Piper. She's very competitive. So when the two of us get going, feelings can get hurt. But
I just don't care.
I know you don't. But Uno is a big deal in this house. Anyway, so
I'm selectively competitive. Things that I feel like deserve competition, I'm super competitive around, but games are not one of them.
But so I'm finding that my competitive nature is actually helping to fuel my my mindset to get out there and go walk or go ride my bike, or I remember last night we were only on our second lap. And I was just like, I'm so done with this. Like, I'm so tired of walking and exercising. And of course, I pushed myself and we get it done. And I'm like, thank God I did it and didn't, peter out and just give up, because I do feel better. I don't know. It's a constant battle that I'm sure everybody has to deal with most anything in their life is self-sabotage. It can apply to work, it can apply to relationships, it applies to your workout and your eating habits. Self-sabotage is always going to be there, and I think it does absolutely go down to what you said earlier, is just that humans are lazy. We're just a lazy species now, and there is no reason for us to not be lazy, because all we have to do is we just have to pick up our phone and order our groceries. We don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore. We just keep, streaming that series that we're watching or whatever.
And just to follow that up, I would argue it's not even human beings. I think every creature's natural state is laziness. Because I tell this story, which it's humorous, but I distinctly remember one of my foundational moments when I was at Fort Leonard Wood, when I was in basic training. Most people realize that on at least every military base in the continental U.S. I'm familiar with, you're not allowed to hunt on that base. maybe there's some specific areas that are set aside for like way out in the back 40, but certainly not like in the middle of post. And I noticed all the squirrels that were on that base were like the size of cats. They were chubby. They could barely climb trees. They didn't run anywhere. I mean, it's not like the little, the little bullets we have around here that just shoot across your yard up a tree like warp speed. These creatures had gotten very fat and very lazy and very complacent because they were acting like raccoons, eating out of the trash cans and the dumpsters and everything.
Yeah.
They had all the food they could want without working for it. And what's better is because, military bases train soldiers year round, they didn't even have to like store nuts for the winter because the damn trash can refilled every day.
Yeah.
So
True.
it put these squirrels in this state where they were now totally dependent upon the humans to feed them, but because that was a reliable source of food, they had completely unlearned every squirrel-like behavior. I know I'm tapping. They had completely unlearned every squirrel-like behavior they would have otherwise had. And they were all couch potatoes. Like, and no fear of human beings at all. Like, I remember sitting under a tree, leaning up against a tree, eating an MRE, and a squirrel just walked up to me and just kind of sat back on his haunches waiting for me to give him some food. Things that no squirrel around here would ever do. You know what I'm saying? Because they know that around here there's hunters that want to turn them into dinner. So that was one of those moments in time where I thought to myself, I'm like, this is what happens when there's too much anything. You know what I'm saying? When life is made too easy, creatures' natural proclivity is to sit back on their haunches and wait for the free meal and get chubby and get out of shape and not be able to fend for themselves anymore. And I believe human beings definitely fall into that. That's one of the reasons why I'm so big on us getting outside, being out in the heat, dealing with it, sweating, being uncomfortable. This is why I love camping so much, because it forces me out of this air conditioning and out of comfort, out into the real world where I have to suck it up and deal with the environment for a while. This is why I'm always pushing myself to train in firearms. I mean, like, this is all part of a larger philosophy where it's like, I feel like we as human beings, if we sit here in this air conditioning too much, it tends to drive us down towards a place where we are less healthy and less able to take care of ourselves, because we've created a society where there is so much plenty. Like, I know I told you this, but like when I was in Iraq, one of the indigenous personnel that was working on post, I heard him make a comment about how he hoped one day he could immigrate to America because it must be the richest country on earth because our poor people were so fat. And like, that's not a pejorative against poor people, but like, to think about it, in most other countries, poor people starve to death. They don't have enough food. They're rail thin. So, and like, even in Iraq, there's a lot of families that they might eat every other day, or they might eat one meal a day, and it's not usually the healthiest thing on earth. So from his perspective, he's like, the fact that your poor people are not starved to death in the streets, you almost have money just flowing. Mm-hmm. Or wealth or riches, whatever. So I guess, that's
because we're fed crap. We're fed disgusting, not even real food to keep us sick so that they can give us the cure.
The drugs.
Yeah, I totally believe that. Keep them sick so that we can sell them the cure.
Well, and this is also why
I'll go get my tinfoil hat.
Hey, but this is also why I would have to have some introspective thought before I would ever get on a lifelong medication. And the first question I would have to ask myself is there a lifestyle choice I could make to preclude the need for this? Because if there is, that's the first thing I need to do.
You know what? I'm sorry to interrupt, but it made me think, going back to my blood test results, the last one last week. One of the things that was still low was my testosterone. And so we had talked about this months ago about how, there will be other options if these supplements aren't working. So my testosterone is still low, which is normal for someone going through perimenopause and menopause. And so my options were cream or something else, or pellets, which is applied. It's underneath the skin. Anyway, has a lot of really good outcomes for women, and then it has a lot of negative. But one thing that she said was, or you can just keep walking every day, and that's going to boost your testosterone. And so that's another drive for me to keep walking every day and exercising and making sure that I'm continuing this healthy lifestyle, because I really don't want to be put on the pellets would be the best way to go, because it is natural testosterone, so it's not a fake. What's the word for that? It's
Synthetic.
not synthetic testosterone. And the side effects of it is just not something I really want to go down that. I feel like if I go down that rabbit hole and get into those side effects that for women, having over testosterone or whatever, I'm going to be battling to get back to a good place. And so, you're on it for so many months before, I think it's 3 months before they do another blood test and they see if you need to come off of it or whatever. So I'm just going to keep doing the natural approach, because I feel like my body is going to naturally make up for, or it's going to make up the difference in the different levels that I'm battling with. And she even said that the supplements that I'm on now, I may be able to get off in 6 months. So I'm on them for another 6 months just to kind of see where we are. We'll do more blood tests in December, and then I might be able to get off of them. But she did say that B12 and vitamin D will be something that I need to stay on for the rest of my life, which you probably do too. So.
Yeah, but again, like I said, I guess to me that's call that a life philosophy or whatever. I think that I feel like we human beings have created some of our own hell. You know what I'm saying? Like we've I would love to take whoever invented the USDA food pyramid and like tar and feather them, to be perfectly honest, because
I believe that was the beginning of keep them sick to sell them the cure.
I don't even know if that was the beginning, but
maybe not, because maybe it was about that time. People were becoming very conscious about being overweight, and that was around the time that it was like 60s maybe. I don't know when the food pyramid was created, but I know in the 60s it was really kind of you're overweight and it's not socially acceptable, we have to fix this kind of thing. And so the first weight loss surgery was performed, and my mom was actually part of this group of the first weight loss surgery. And this is what doctors thought, and I know we're over our time, but this is what doctors thought. If we remove the intestines, the food is in their stomach shorter, therefore their absorption rate is going to be less, and so they won't absorb as much fat, because fat makes you fat, which is totally not true. Fat doesn't make you fat. What? I know. Fat is actually really healthy for you. You do need fat.
Animal fat is like critical for brain health, which could explain why we have so many people in this country that have depression, anxiety, and dementia. But that's none of my business.
And so my mom went in for this weight loss surgery. Now, she is one of maybe 3 that are still alive today. And what they did was they removed all but 14 inches of her small intestine. 14 inches of her small intestine. They connected her liver to, what was it? I'm trying to think. They connected her stomach to her liver. And so all of these acids are now being deposited into her liver. And a lot of the people that had this weight loss surgery in the 60s died from cirrhosis of the liver. Not only that, but she has no absorption of anything. So she can't even absorb the medication, not the medication, the nutrients that she needs to, like magnesium, she'll never absorb it. Potassium, she never absorbs it. So everything has to go through the skin or injected. It has to go through the blood for her. And so she's always had stomach issues because she has no intestines. And so what her intestines have done, her small intestines, because probably about 12, maybe even longer than that, almost probably 15 years now, she had this surgery. And what they thought was happening was she was getting kinks in what was left of her intestines. And so really what was happening is, I don't know if you knew this could happen, but you can get migraines in your stomach. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but your intestines are your second brain, probably even your first brain. I don't know. But your stomach and your brain and your intestines are one big brain. And so she was getting migraines in her intestines. And so they thought something really bad was happening. Anyway, they open her up, horrible surgery. I mean, it was a very intrusive surgery. And what they found was that the 14 inches of her intestines, so 14 inches, whatever, this big, they hadn't grown in length, but the intestines, which are usually like this big, maybe a little bit smaller, were now this large. And this is not a fish story. It's literally expanded this large to try and get as much surface area for absorption of nutrients, because it just needed, her body just needed to regroup and say, okay, something's not right here. I have to do my job, but I don't have anything to work with, so now we're just going to grow. And so that's what it did. Luckily, she's still alive. She deals with it daily. I mean, she never gets away from it. But yeah, so weight has always been a thing, you know.
Is this the part where I make the allegation that I think I would like to believe that the doctors that performed those surgeries had the best of intentions, but the way you describe that almost reminds me of like the reason the Nuremberg trials happened in the first place. But that might be a bit of a dark road to go down. I'm just going to say that, like, again, getting back to what I was saying, I believe that if there are lifestyle changes we can make to modulate our health, that's what we need to be doing. I am extremely, I want to say I'm very risk averse, but I think I'm more, my natural tendency is I will not trade the devil I know for the devil I don't. So whenever somebody says, this brand new medication came out, it does this, I'd be like, you try first, let me know how it works out for you. Because I know the devil I deal with. Blood sugar, weight, the joint pain resulting from all that. I know that devil. I don't know that devil. Yeah. So I'm going to work on this one with the tools I know works if I just stop being so damn lazy and get up off my butt every now and then, rather than trade it for that devil that I don't know and you don't know. Because I look at our food and I'm horrified by some of the stuff I see in it. Like, you and I made this announcement to each other one time, like going through the store, and like you pick stuff up off the shelf that there's no rational reason for it to have sugar in it, but there's sugar in it.
Everything has sugar in it now.
Yeah, but there's all the preservatives, there's all the crap. So
yeah.
I've really reached a point where the more I can cut the food industry out of what we're eating, the better. Mm-hmm. So if that means, like yesterday, I made bread for the first time. Mm-hmm. I'm super proud of that. It came out really good.
It is. It's good bread.
But I used to make pizza crust back in the day, but I never tried to make bread before. I just got a recipe and figured it out, and it came out really awesome. I've been roasting my own coffee for a long time, and we've been both pushing each other to cook more here at the house with raw ingredients than go get something that comes in an aluminum pan in a cardboard box from the store. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that the more we do that, we're starting off with better food in our that we're putting into our faces. We're doing the work outside with some additional exercise to make sure that we're burning off some of those calories and strengthening our bodies at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I believe if we keep that up, that we'll continue to see the results we're hoping for. What I don't want is for us or anybody else to tell themselves, I'm going to fail, because then you will. But I also want people to realize that, these are changes that largely you pushed us towards, that I've been more than happy to encourage us to keep going with. Because I truly believe that, I'm turning 41 in a few months, you're turning 40 not long after I turn 41. And if we want, like I said at the very beginning of the show, we as a society get to about 65, 70, and then our health falls off a cliff, and we spend the last 20 years of our lives, if we go live that long, in crap health, sucking down medications every day to keep us alive, going to the doctor every other week. And I don't want that. I want to be as able-bodied and ambulatory and as mentally sharp for as many years as I can, because that's living, not just having a heartbeat.
Right.
So every extra year we can buy ourselves of not being insulin dependent, not being diabetic, which runs in both of our families, not being, not letting your ankle, my hip, my knee, my shoulder put me in the position where we can't do anything for ourselves anymore. Every extra year we can buy ourselves with work today is to our benefit.
Agreed.
Anything else?
I think that's it. It was a good show. I hope you enjoyed it, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to our live show. Yeah, so, you know how all these end. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. We really appreciate you being a part of the Raising Values family, and we will see you next week.
And for God's sakes, positive vibe, positive outcome. It sounds really silly, but I'm telling you, if you just keep telling yourself, I can do it, you got better odds than if you tell yourself the opposite.
Philosophical Phil is usually right. Shut up. No, stop looking at me like that. It's time to end the broadcast. Goodbye.
I have witnesses.